from Mexico. Monterrey is the backdrop for another UFC fight night. South of the border, the fighters hit the scale in just minutes. At the top of the bill stands a pair of top 15 welterweights. Young gun Kelvin Gastelum will have the Mexican crowd on his side as he takes on the 6'3" Neil Magny. And in the co-main event, Diego Sanchez competes in his 4th weight class in the UFC. Welcoming him to the featherweight fold is All-American wrestler Ricardo Lamas. Hello again, this is the FS1 UFC Fight Night Weigh-In Show. I'm Karen Bryant alongside Rashad Evans and Michael Bisping. Heidi Andral is down in Mexico. Rashad, I got to ask right off the top, what are you most looking forward to tomorrow night?
Well, I'm looking for my boy, Durango Sanchez, as I call him, at 145. I think this is an exciting matchup. He wants to jump right in it and go against Ricardo Lamas, one of the toughest guys in the weight class, but that's Diego's style. He's got that craziness that he believes in himself, and at 145, it doesn't matter. He's going to go for it.
He always goes for it. Listen, the main event and the co-main event, they sell themselves. They're fantastic fights. A little bit further down the card, though, we got CEJUDO, Olympic gold medalist, taking on FORMIGA, 4 times Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion. Do not miss this one.
No, a lot to look forward to, but Rashad, let's get right to that main event. A pair of 20-somethings, right? Kelvin Gastelum and Neil Magny. Why are you psyched about this particular fight?
Well, I like Magny. Magny's a guy who just comes in there and just wants to play spoiler. He's a guy who's gotten a lot better in his craft, nice to use his reach, unorthodox striker, can get it done anywhere, and I like the fact that, you know what, he doesn't need a big notice to take a fight. Taking fights short notice shows the fact that he's very hungry and he believes in himself, and that's the only training that you can get, the only mindset you can get by going and doing hard training, knowing you're getting better and getting the confidence of your coaches.
Confidence is a fighter's best friend, and nothing breeds confidence like fighting in the octagon so regularly. But on the flip side of it, he's facing Kelvin Gastelum. Gastelum, an incredibly powerful wrestler, and we've seen in his tenure with the UFC, he's getting better and better. He's putting the strikes together all the time. He's only lost 1 fight, and that is to perhaps the next guy in line for the welterweight title, Tyron Woodley. Gastelum, better and better every time he fights.
Yeah, Magny's certainly subscribing to the stay ready so you don't have to get ready credo. But, Michael, I want to talk about the co-main event. Diego Sanchez, as we mentioned, dropping to 145 pounds for the very first time. He's taking on the 4th-ranked Ricardo Lamas. I mean, this is a heck of a scrap to welcome.
No, absolutely. Listen, Diego Sanchez has a lot to gain from this fight. Obviously, if he goes in there and beats Ricardo Lamas, he's top 5 in that division for sure. So in many ways, this is a dangerous fight for Lamas to take. Lamas has lost to Jose Aldo and Chad Mendes, the only 2 guys in that division. When you look at Lamas' skill set, he's got amazing kicks, great wrestling, great striking, and a pace that never ends. That's one great thing about Ricardo Lamas. Always in a high-paced action fight. Of course, Diego, he's the same way. Fireworks in the co-main event for sure. Yeah, for sure, indeed. I mean, Diego Sanchez is just somebody who's going to push the pace of the fight. It's going to be Diego. I mean, Ricardo's going to have his work cut out as well, too, because Diego, he's cutting down on 145, but it's not going to be an easy win. I mean, look at Diego Sanchez, the fight with Gilbert Melendez. One of the best fights you will see in UFC history. If that guy turns up, we've got fun.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're going to get to business. John Anik is down in Monterrey as the master of ceremonies. John, take it away, sir.
Hola, Monterrey. Thank you so much for coming out. This is the official weigh-in. How about a hand? Our Octagon girl, Gemilette, is here. The best VP of Talent Relations in the world, Joe Silva's here. Our General Manager for Latin America is Jamie Pollock. Greatest living American there is Brian Stan. And pulling up the rear here, our VP of Regulatory Affairs, Mr. Mark Ratner. All right, let's get things going here with the early prelims. First up in the lightweight division, Valmir Bidu Lazaro versus Michel Tractor Prezerich.
Michel Prezerich is an active police officer in Brazil. In fact, he trains with a lot of police officers down there. They have a structure where they can work out together when they're working. He said the scariest encounter he had as a police officer to date was a hostage situation where he had to kill 2 criminals in order to save the hostage. He still says that fighting is scarier than being a cop, though.
$156 for Michel Prezerich. And his opponent, Valmir Lazaro.
Valmir Lazaro got to start off in the sweet science of boxing, and when it came time to decide on what sport he wanted to pursue, no doubt it was mixed martial arts. He said he's a big fan of mixed martial arts, and he just loves to get inside that octagon. 9 of his last 13 wins have ended in knockout, and he plans to add to that with another knockout in Monterrey.
$155 for Valmir Lazaro. All right, our next early prelim also in the lightweight division. Cesar Goku Arzamendia versus Polo El Toro Reyes. First fighter to the scale, Polo Reyes.
The quarterfinals continue on an all-new episode of The Ultimate Fighter this Wednesday at 10 Eastern and Pacific right here on FS1.
$155 for Polo Reyes. And his opponent, please welcome Cesar Arzamendia.
The one and only Colin Cowherd is bold, unique, and outspoken, and you can see him on The Herd every weekday at noon Eastern, only on FS1.
$155 for Cesar Arzamendia. All right, moving on now to the welterweight division. Vernon Ramos versus Alvaro Chango Herrera.
Tomorrow, it's the duel in the desert as Arizona squares off against Arizona State for the Territorial Cup. Coverage begins at 3:30 Eastern, only on FS1.
$171 for Alvaro Herrera. And his opponent, Vernon Ramos.
Vernon Ramos sounds like one of the nicest guys you might wish to meet. Regarding his opponent, he says that he's a great friend, a companion, and actually has a lot of affection for him. But that said, he's still looking to win in spectacular fashion so he can follow in the footsteps of his idol, George St. Pierre.
$170 for Vernon Ramos. And now
Welcome back to the desk. You can catch the upcoming 4-fight prelims on FS1 tomorrow, starting with featherweights Andre Fili and tough Latin America 1 alum Gabriel Benitez. The 25-year-old Fili is up first.
The weight cut has gotten more challenging for Andre Fili over time, and that's not because of the gym. No, that's perfect. And it's not because he's out of shape. No, it's because of Twitter. Over a year ago, he told fans to send pictures of their pizza because he was craving it while he was cutting weight. Well, now that's become a curse. He said as he flips through his Twitter feed, over half the pictures are now pizza.
$145 for Andre Fili. And his opponent, Gabriel Benitez.
Tomorrow, two guys who are looking to become contenders in the welterweight division face off as Neil Magny takes on Kelvin Gastelum. A full card of great action begins at 7 Eastern on FS1.
$145 for Mosley. All right, next up in the bantamweight division, Alejandro Perez versus Scott Young Guns Jorgensen.
Tomorrow, start your college football Saturday with a Big 12 matchup as Iowa State takes on K-State. Coverage begins at noon Eastern, only on FS1.
$135.5 for Scott Jorgensen. And his opponent, Alejandro Perez.
Alejandro Perez was the first Ultimate Fighter Latin American champ. And in preparation for this fight, I spoke to the champ, DC, and he said that Perez spent most of his time in Sacramento preparing for this fight, doing wrestling camps with high school kids. And now he feels that his wrestling may be the biggest advantage coming into this fight.
$135.5 for Alejandro Perez. All right, our next prelim is in the welterweight division. Hector El Toro Urbina versus Bartosz the Butcher Fabinski.
The best college football game in America tomorrow is on Fox as Baylor needs a big win to get back in the playoff race, while Oklahoma State looks to stay undefeated in their biggest test of the season. Coverage begins at 7:30 Eastern on Fox.
$170 for Bartosz Fabinski. And his opponent, Hector Urbina.
Hector Urbina, or El Toro, as he likes to call himself, is a vastly experienced mixed martial artist with 25 professional wins on his record. If you look at that record, you'll see some familiar names like none other than Tim Kennedy. As I said, a lot of experience, but only one win inside the octagon, looking to get win number 2 tomorrow night.
Take off your helmet, take off your thing here.
All right, folks, just so you know, if he does not make weight, he will give up 20% of his purse to his opponent, but he does have 1 hour to make that weight if he is not successful.
And losing 20% of your purse is no bueno.
171 for
there you
Hector
go.
Urbina.
Bueno.
Mucho.
All right, that brings us to our featured prelim in the bantamweight division. Eric Goyito Perez versus Taylor Double Impact Lapilus.
Taylor Lapilus, or Double Impact as he likes to call himself, is a man who's not short on confidence, and that's for good reason. He's 10-1 with a 70% finishing rate. Fighting out of the MMA factory in Paris, France, he recently went and trained at SBG in Ireland to train with none other than the notorious one, Conor McGregor, and no doubt picked up a new trick or two.
$36.
136 for Taylor Lapilus. And his opponent born right here in Monterrey, Eric Goyito Perez.
25-year-old Eric Perez hasn't been in the octagon since June of last year. He was supposed to fight at UFC 180 in Mexico City. Unfortunately, had an injury, couldn't compete there, but he finally now gets to fight here in Mexico. Not just anywhere, but his hometown of Monterrey. He said having all of his friends and family is going to bring a lot of good energy to this fight.
$36.
136 for Goyito.
Welcome back to the desk in Los Angeles. 12 more fighters left to weigh in as we move into the main card. Up next, it's Efrain Escudero and Leandro Silva. And Michael, what do you like about the Muay Thai striker Silva?
Well, the Muay Thai striker Silva isn't just a Muay Thai guy. This is a guy that's been training mixed martial arts for about 10 years now. High-level BJJ black belt, typically takes his opponents down to the mat and forces out a submission. He's trained all over the world, shooter box in Brazil, American top team. A vastly experienced fighter, and I expect him to come out there tomorrow night nice and strong and look for the takedown as usual. But of course, the first fight is the scale. Let's see how he does. One of the bigger guys at 155. He's very
Yeah, I was
thick.
gonna say, he looks very...
Big legs.
Yeah.
55.
155
There it
for
is.
Buscape. And his opponent, Efrain Escudero.
Efrain Escudero is no stranger to The Ultimate Fighter. In fact, he won Season 8, and he coached The Ultimate Fighter Latin America opposite Kelvin Gastelum this year. I spoke to him about that coaching experience, and he said it really brought life to his career. It's revitalized him watching these young guys go after their dreams.
I'll tell you, sometimes all it takes is just doing that show and being the perspective of being on it and being a coach, and it definitely lights the tires on me.
56.
156 for Efrain Escudero.
Who do you think has the edge on the ground, guys?
Oh, I gotta go with Efrain.
I don't know. Leandro Silva, I got to disagree with you there, Richard. Looks like this one's going to go down on the feet, though, if
Yeah, for sure.
the stare down is
All right, now we
anything
get
to
to
go
the
by.
Ultimate Fighter Latin America lightweight final. Horacio Gutierrez versus Enrique Barzola.
Tomorrow, UCLA takes on Utah, with both teams looking for a berth in the Pac-12 title game. Coverage begins at 3 Eastern, only on Fox.
This one-time publicist, Barzola, is definitely making his dream come true here with his first fight in the UFC on Ultimate Fighter for the finale. And I'll tell you what, Michael, times have definitely changed from when we were fighting Ultimate Fighter. There wasn't this big crowd like it is here nowadays. And could you imagine the nerves of these guys? Chance to get a contract, but you got to fight in front of all these people.
That's right, when I weighed in, hold on, let's let this guy weigh in, and then I'll tell you my story.
55.
155
Yeah, back in the
for
day, it was at the
Enrique
Hard Rock in Vegas with about
Barzola.
20 people there.
Yeah.
You know, and I thought that was cool, but look at this. The times are changing.
And his opponent, Horacio the Punisher Gutierrez.
Horacio Gutierrez makes his UFC debut here in his home country of Mexico. I spoke to his coaches, and they told me he is one of the most nervous people they've ever met. And what does he do to calm the nerves? He'll probably be watching cartoons on fight day. They like to rag on him for that.
Yeah, as I said, it was at the Hard Rock in Vegas, 2006. About 20 people there, and you know, coming from England, my first fight in America, and there was a crowd at the weigh-ins. I thought that was amazing. You know, these guys here, coming off, you know, the later season of The Ultimate Fighter, and thrust into the limelight like this. A lot of nerves, a lot of pressure.
154
And a beautiful
for
headband.
Horacio Gutierrez.
Headband of the night award.
Let's see.
50K right there.
No disrespect
Look at
to the
that.
hat.
Oh,
Right?
oh.
Save it, guys.
Little foolishness.
Battle of the headwear.
Certainly taking the moment in.
And rightly so.
All right, that brings us to the Ultimate Fighter Latin America welterweight final. Eric Perry Montano versus Enrique Wasabi Marin.
Enrique Marin gets his nickname from going to sushi with a friend. He saw a side of wasabi. He thought it was guacamole. He ate every last bite of it, and then he told me he almost died. But his nickname of Wasabi was born.
You know, I did a similar thing to my son, Callum. I took a spoon of wasabi and I said, here, son, try this, you'll love it. Fortunately, he can take spice.
170.
170
But yeah,
for
his mum
Enrique
wasn't too happy when
Marin.
you say that.
I should say, with his football career and now wrestling, Mike, he might take you on soon. You better be good to count.
I laughed so hard.
Eric Montano fighting, you know, one of these Mexican fighters fighting at home. First fight in the UFC happened. You hear the crowd behind them. You know, just the mindset these guys got to go into to be able to face this right now with so much on the line, being an Ultimate Fighter champion. And, you know, he had a tough road to get to the finals. He was able to win in his semifinal match and get in here pretty concisely. But the road has still been tough. And here he is right now with a big, tough crowd in front of him. It's going to be hard to match him.
Absolutely.
169.
Because the thing is, these guys, they're not just representing themselves, they're representing Mexico, they're representing their country. They're trying to, you know, put forward that Mexico has great mixed martial artists,
Yes.
and we deserve to be on the world stage.
Well, we certainly know the boxing heritage
Oh,
in
massively.
Mexico is unbelievable.
This looks a friendly affair.
Well, that's one thing being in the house can do for you. You know, you get to know the guy, so it takes a little bit off of the pressure of fighting him, you know, because you know who you're going to fight.
All right, now to a featured bout in the flyweight division. Jussier FORMIGA versus Henry the Messenger CEJUDO.
Henry CEJUDO has a lot of hype around him, and justifiably so, you know. Henry CEJUDO, Olympic gold medalist, and, you know, the pressure is not on him right now for this fight. It's on the scale. CEJUDO has missed weight class, missed weight before, and just being able to get down to the weight, cut himself down, because he's a rather thick guy, but right now is his biggest test, getting on the scale.
Well, I gotta say, he looks a little worried right now.
I would be too, 20%.
Yeah.
26. You got it. He's okay. 26.
126.
Hey, they didn't
Hard round.
No,
he's good, he's good.
He's got a, he's made it.
No, he's good. Yeah, it's not a title fight, so here we go.
And his
He did look a little nervous.
That's a big win right there for CEJUDO. Huge.
Well, you know, it's interesting you say it's not a title fight because a lot of people are looking at this fight as an unofficial title eliminator. But if you speak to FORMIGA, he doesn't see it like that. He's not interested. He's firmly focused on Henry CEJUDO. He knows he brings a lot of things to the table. But if he can get past him, listen, he's ranked number 3. The 2 guys ahead of him, Dodson and, pardon me, who's the other guy? Anyway, they've both been beaten off the current champion, so it's a hard sell. So he knows if he is advantageous, Benavidez, thank you, Rashad. If he wins this fight, he's next in line.
26.
126 for Jussier FORMIGA.
Joseph Benavidez, thank you, Rashad. Oh, here we go.
Save your energy, boys. Save your energy.
See, now everybody wants the outside of the stare down, right? With Holly and Ronda.
Ronda started.
See, this is the thing. You got 2 grapplers here, but I think they're going to throw it out tomorrow night.
All right, with that backdrop,
CEJUDO's been letting his hands go a lot lately.
Absolutely. He's fallen in love with his boxing.
The bully LAMAS versus Diego the Dream Sanchez.
It's sure good to see Durango Sanchez back at it again. I love his fighting style. Now he's at 145. It's his 3rd different weight class. And, you know, a guy like Diego who brings a fight, action-packed fighter, you got to wonder what a weight cut like this is going to do. You know, 4th different weight cuts, I'm sorry. And you have to wonder, like, what is it going to do to his body? But you know, if you know Diego and his fighting style, he's going to bring it no matter what.
Well, you know, he certainly looks a little sucked in, so I hope he has the stamina tomorrow night.
45.
But he's certainly happy to be there.
Well, we haven't seen him fight since June of 2014, so a lot of people, I think, looking forward to seeing him back in action.
In the world, former world title challenger, Ricardo Lamas.
Well, you know, Ricardo Lamas, when he was first told about the fight with Diego Sanchez, he was a little worried about this fight for several reasons. One, he actually thought Diego wasn't going to make weight and that the fight might not go ahead. And then, of course, you know, it's a difficult fight because Diego is so experienced and been a part of the UFC so long, so it's a tough fight. But if he lost to somebody that's not ranked inside the top 10. Lamas, obviously number 4, wants to fight for the title again,
46,
and he's very capable.
146 for
Very capable,
Ricardo
made weight.
Lamas.
And the fight is on. A fantastic co-main event tomorrow night.
A taste for comedy, too, Ricardo Lamas. The bits he did about Conor McGregor back in the day were...
That was pretty good.
This is my candidate for fight at night. I think these guys are going to steal the show.
Well, Diego Sanchez has won that, what, 5 times before?
If you look at them here, though, they're both sucked in right now, but you can clearly see the size difference. Diego is the bigger guy, he's got the bigger frame, and when he puts that water on, he's going to be even bigger.
On the marquee in our welterweight main event tomorrow night. Take a look.
Neil Magny versus Kelvin Gastelum is a very important fight for both fighters.
Being able to get to the point to fight for a headline just shows that you've been doing the right things throughout the years, and your hard work is definitely paying off. Just going to open up so many more doors for me.
I want to prove to myself, I want to prove to the world, prove to the UFC that I belong in the top. The journey from here on out is to keep going up.
Kelvin is coming off of an amazing knockout victory over former Strikeforce champion Nate Marquardt, one of the best performances of his career. And in that fight, we got to see Kelvin Gastelum's skills. His footwork is spectacular, his boxing technique is sharp, and his grappling has been excellent inside the octagon. He's one of the most exciting prospects in the division. Neil Magny is a very disciplined guy. Neil Magny is always in shape. And one of the good things about that is that Neil has been able to take short notice fights. This is his second very tough short notice fight in a row. He stepped in on short notice and beat Eric Silva, and now he's stepping in again on short notice and he's fighting against Kelvin Gastelum. Neil Magny, he pushes a ridiculous pace from the moment the fight starts to the very last second of the last round. Neil Magny has the same pace. Kelvin Gastelum is going to have something to prove in this fight. Neil Magny's going to test him. Neil Magny's going to test his cardio. Neil Magny is going to test his will. Neil Magny wants to win this fight and win this fight badly.
This is the fight that gets me put on the map. It separates me from the pack. It definitely puts me in the mix for the top 5 opponents and closer towards fighting for a world championship.
I haven't even began to tap into what my real potential is. I'm trying to prove I'm the best of the world, and on that fight night, I'm going to prove it. I'm going to rip them apart.
First fighter to the scale, number 15 in the world, Kelvin Gastelum.
Well, Joe Rogan kind of said it all there. I mean, if you listen to that, you know, it's obvious. Kelvin Gastelum is on a mission for gold. But, of course, the battle has always been on the scale, so I'm kind of intrigued to see how he does here. I'm very happy to get on that scale, I might add, so I think we're good.
171 for Kelvin Gastelum.
There we go.
Regarding
You
this
can see
fight,
the
though,
confidence when he almost tripped out of his drawers.
Opponent is the 13th
That he knew he made
ranked
weight.
in the world, Neil Magny.
Neil Magny has made that phrase, if you stay ready, you ain't gotta get ready, popular because he stays ready. He's never out of fight shape. And when you're coming in as a Neil Magny short notice for the second time in a row, you know, you would normally think that would be a problem from some fighters, but not Magny.
71.
171.
And we should say he was actually
for
training
Neil
with Matt Brown,
Magny.
who was Gastelum's initial opponent.
well, you know, in this fight, Kelvin actually says that Magny's good at everything, but he isn't great at any one thing.
I mean, look at just how he just dwarfs Gastelum, though. I mean,
Look at that.
Yeah, 6-inch height advantage,
Well,
9-inch
with
reach
that, the main
advantage.
event is official. Thank you all so much for coming out to the weigh-in. We'll see you right back here for the fights tomorrow night.
All right, thank you very much, John Anik. Welcome back to the West Coast. Rashad, your thoughts on the weigh-in, specifically CEJUDO getting in there, mixing it up a little bit.
Hey, well, I think he was just happy he made weight. He didn't know what to do after that, so I think he had to get a little bit of extra energy and let the guy know right off the gate that he wasn't going to have any foolishness and he wanted the inside from Ronda. I mean, he got that from Ronda.
Yeah, that's right. Well, listen, Gastelum kind of the same way. You know, he almost fell over getting on the scale, and right there at the end, you know, he was pumped up. He was trying to energize the crowd. He was happy he made weight. The fight is on. The main event is set.
All right, folks, tomorrow it is all on FS1, the exclusive home of the UFC, starting at 7 Eastern for the pre-fight show, prelims at 8, main card at 10, and stick around for post-fight coverage on Fox Sports Live. Straight away, Neil Magny is a day away from his 10th fight in less than 2 years. Can the momentum take him through Kelvin Gastelum? We'll discuss that next on FS1.